Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. Hope you guys are all had a great weekend, ready for a big week. And I welcome in my co-host, Boxing Hall of Fame writer and Michael Spink's biographer, Jack Hirsch. Good morning, Jack.
Hey, good morning, Keith.
Did you have a good weekend, Jack? It was a busy kind of weekend, but not huge, right? We had the Hall of Fame inductions. We had Yankees Old Timers Day.
Keith, in a few weeks, you won't have to ask that question because the NFL season is going to be underway. Baseball is going to be racing towards the playoff positions, and then the playoffs are going to begin. So college football is going to begin, and I know that's your favorite.
Love college football.
A lot's going to be going on. This is a lull before the storm.
We'll be there. But there's some news, some sad news in the world of sports, too. Yeah. Don Nelson, I guess I got to say great player. He won a lot of championships with the Celtics.
Not a great player. No, very solid player on great teams.
His jersey hangs in the rafters in Boston. That's all I know.
And no disrespect to Don Nelson.
No, I understand.
But to retire his jersey as a Boston Celtic player mirrors what goes on in all the organizations today. Where, jerseys are easily retired.
Yeah.
Only jerseys of the great legendary players, I feel, should be retired. We've had that difference of opinion. We've had that discussion as far as the New York Yankees go, retiring too many numbers of players, people who shouldn't be retired. But it's what it is. But Don Nelson had a heck of a career. He compiled numbers, compiled teams. And he had a heck of a career.
He was one of the really good six men in basketball history.
So the Celtics retired the number of a sixth man. Think of it.
Well, I'm sure other teams have done it as well.
But the thing about Don Nelson is, as good a player as he was, and he was a very good player. I'm not downplaying that. He really was a very good player. If I had to compare him to anyone, maybe Anunoby with the Knicks, that type of player. That's what he meant for the Celtics. I think that's a good comparison, really good. And I don't think the Knicks are really going to retire Anunoby's number. But both guys, Anunoby and Nelson, are always going to share something in common in all probability. As good a career as both men and Anunoby is going to have before all said and done. Yeah. They're basically going to be remembered for one play. Anunoby, that great tip-in, that legendary tip-in against the Spurs in this Knicks championship season. And Don Nelson for the crazy shot late in Game 7 against the LA Lakers. What was in the 68-69, championship series, where the ball hit the rim, went straight high in the air, and then dropped through the net. And that was the backbreaker for the LA Lakers. If that shot doesn't go in, who knows what would have happened in that Game 7.
Well, regardless of what we think of him as a player, I guess, he's probably better known to at least a generation of fans as a coach. And he coached a long, long time, never won a championship as a coach. Thought he was going to win one here in New York when he replaced Pat Riley. And Don Nelson has said, and he had a great career, he was an innovative player, coach, believed in the point forward and smaller lineups at a time when that wasn't popular. When he came to New York, he really thought he had the makings of a championship team. And one of the only regrets he said he ever had in his career was his time in New York, because he misread what that team was all about. Patrick Ewing was a star.
He totally misread what the team was about. Don Nelson was a good coach at his other stops, but for the Knicks, he wasn't. He absolutely wasn't. His first thing he did was let Patrick Ewing know, you're not going to be the main scorer anymore. Anthony Mason is going to be the main scorer. The problem is Mason wasn't a scorer. Mason was not a big-time scorer. So he made Anthony Mason the focal point of the offense. That was flat out dumb to do. If you don't want to if you want to spread the wealth and not make one particular scorer take a little of the scoring responsibility off of Ewing, I understand that. This wasn't like what Pat Riley did with the Lakers when he finally said to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I want Magic Johnson to be the main scorer. Now, even though we don't think of Magic as a big time scorer per se, Magic was capable of doing that. Anthony Mason wasn't capable of being an elite scorer, yet Nelson put him in that role.
I don't know if it was just about scoring, though. It was about the offense running through these guys,
Through
right?
Mason.
Yeah, through Mason. I mean, again,
awful move. But it doesn't take away from the good things he did elsewhere. Reportedly, he's the one that pushed the Warriors to draft Steph Curry. He would argue with the front office.
His last
that was a game changer in the history of that organization.
Yeah.
An incredible impact move, because if the Warriors don't draft Steph Curry, maybe they have no championships, let alone the 4 that they got with them. And he had a great relationship reportedly with Dirk Nowitzki, at Dallas, with Luka at Dallas
too. Yeah, he was a big influence on him and getting that Dallas team, which was nowhere, into become a very good team. So he did turn teams around. He turned Milwaukee. All these teams were bad.
Around.
All these teams were bad when he got to them, except the Knicks. They were close.
Yeah,
to a
I mean, if you forget what he did for the Knicks, then it seems like he even wanted it to be forgotten, because he didn't do a good job with the Knicks. He did a good job elsewhere. If I had to compare him to anyone, he was like the Marty Schottenheimer of NBA coaches. He never won an NBA championship, but he did make everyone better. He put teams in the mix. He did improve teams. He was a good coach. Don Nelson was a good coach. Let me state that, okay, straight out. Good coach.
And a really good coach.
Year after year. And he was an innovator. He was a guy who was ahead of his time, because he liked playing, I don't want to say small ball, but fast ball. The NBA traditionally was, you get the ball into the low post to your big guys and you score, and that was the best way of winning games. But he would, adapt the running game, a lot of ball movement. He was ahead of his time. And the things that Nelson stressed in his time were done later on. So we saw that Don Nelson was a coach, a real innovator, like I said, ahead of his time.
He had really good teams. In Milwaukee, he had really good teams, but there was always Boston and Philadelphia at that time were really good as well, and they just couldn't get past those. Those were good teams. Marcus Johnson, Sidney Moncrief, those were good teams.
Yeah, that's what I always say. If you have a team and you always have them in the mix, you're a good coach. You're doing a good job. Getting over the top is the hard part, but a lot of times it's out of the coach, managers, owners, GMs. It's out of their hands. The players just have to execute at the end and get over the top. There's only so much you can do. At the end of the day, it's a player's game. You come down to these games, especially at the end, you could have the greatest strategy ever, but the players just have to manage to get it done. With Don Nelson's teams, like you said, there were other good teams. They just couldn't quite turn that final corner.
It's interesting. The Knicks had a couple of some great coaches come in here. Pat Riley never won a championship, but he had really good teams. Don Nelson, that team's record wasn't horrible, but he screwed up the team a little bit. Larry Brown comes in here, one of the great coaches of all time, has the worst record maybe in the history of the Knicks. So some really good coaches could not get it done here, but Mike Brown does. It's very interesting that.
But Mike, the interesting thing, Mike Brown has been a very good coach for years and years. He was a good coach with the Cavaliers. He did win a couple of championships, being an assistant, as an assistant coach.
Yep.
He was coach of the year for the Sacramento Kings. He improved them. I mean, the Knicks knew they were getting a really good coach in Mike Brown. The only issue was, should they have moved on from Tom Thibodeau? That was the complaint. The complaint was never against Mike Brown, how capable he was. And Mike Brown probably would not have been the first choice if a couple of other coaches had made themselves available. Like if a Dan Hurley had called the Knicks up to make himself available, maybe James Dolan would have wanted to create a tremendous splash. and I'm sure there were one or two other coaches.
Well, there's obviously they wanted Jason Kidd. That was obvious.
Yeah, Jason Kidd. Yeah, and Jason Kidd's coaching career is kind of mirrored Don Nelson's.
A little bit.
It's really mirrored. Jason Kidd's been a good, solid coach over the years, but just hasn't been able quite to turn the corner.
Well, Don Nelson, our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and friends.
Good coach, a great basketball lifer. When you look at what he accomplished as a player and a coach and combine his body of work, he's a worthy Hall of Famer.
Well, without a doubt. And in the NBA, the 76ers are still in the news, by the way, because it looks like they're chasing Kevin Love a little bit and Ben Simmons.
Kevin Love is chasing them.
Well, Ben Simmons, I don't know who's chasing who with that, and I don't know why.
Kevin Love wants to play with LeBron, even though they had some turmoil when they were teammates. For some reason, and this is a good thing, they were friends after. They would have dinner together.
Yeah.
They had, a bond, and LeBron, for all the times he may have gotten on Kevin Love, he obviously has an affection for Kevin Love. He likes the guy, and the feeling is mutual. And Kevin Love is a veteran now. He's no longer the Kevin Love of before, a veteran in the sense that he'll play limited minutes. Kevin Love is okay now if he played 7-8 minutes a game in spots, as long as he could help a team. And Kevin Love can, he could still help a team.
Yeah, he can. And Ben Simmons, how's he even going to find a court if he finds a way back?
Ben Simmons is trying out for the Australian national team.
But he's
What's the NBA news on him?
He's also been in conversation about returning to the 76ers, who drafted him in the first place, and it was a disaster. They did draft him, right?
You want to hear the ironic part about it? In the early part of Ben Simmons' career, I went to a Brooklyn Net game, and I'm sitting courtside. I had great seats, and I'm thinking, this guy is great. He's going to be unstoppable as a player. You're going to laugh at me now, and I have to take accountability for bad picks, but at that time, I thought he was as good as Joel Embiid. And if you gave me a choice at that time, early in Ben Simmons' career, you can only have one, Embiid or Simmons. And I considered all factors, injury, health, this, that. My naked eye test said, I'm going to roll with this Ben Simmons. He is going to be an absolute star in this league. But I think Ben Simmons' problem, Keith, in large part, I don't know whether you agree, it's mental with him.
I don't think he likes the game. I don't think he enjoys the game. I think that's the thing. He doesn't want to play.
So if he just wants to continue playing because he loves the paycheck, do you really want him on the team?
No, not even a little.
Ben Simmons, but again, Ben Simmons in limited minutes. If you have him come and spell a guy now and then, just play defense. Tell him, don't worry about scoring. Don't worry about touching the ball even hardly. Just play defense. He is a piece that can still help a team. We can't dismiss it as long as you don't have to pay him that much money.
And he, as Jack said earlier, he was a promising player, Brian. And the problem is the promise was never delivered on. It happens with a lot of young guys.
They say it happened with that playoff game that the Sixers blew the series to the Atlanta Hawks. He had a shot right underneath the basket, and he bypassed it.
Yeah.
And they say he was never the same after that. That's hard to believe one play would do it to you. But it's something is mental with Ben Simmons on the court. As far as it's like he's scared to be aggressive. He's scared to take a chance. He's scared to fail. And all these injuries over the years, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. If a player says he's hurt, I'm going to believe him. But the bottom line is a lot of people do have doubt as far as the severity of the injuries, whether it was severe enough to keep him out. That's the perception.
I agree. It's too bad. But let's move on from the NBA because that's really the only news I've got there. News is lacking when Ben Simmons is the big story. Since we're talking the NBA, I thought I'd bring up the 76ers a little bit.
The NBA schedule is going to be out soon. Maybe this week, next week, it's going to be out.
Well, the most interesting
gonna
thing
come
there
out.
are the holiday games. That's all anybody cares about when the
Well,
schedule's
if
released.
if the NFL goes against the NBA, that's always interesting. If the NBA, let me just ask you quickly. Let's say the NFL has a good slate of games on a holiday day and the NBA is going against it. Let's say Christmas Day.
Yep.
Is there any one particular NBA game that could outdo the NBA that's absolutely must see viewing? Would it be San Antonio in the Knicks? Would it be LeBron, with the Sixers against the Knicks? What would be a bigger attraction, the Spurs against the Knicks or the Sixers against the Knicks? Assuming all the teams are doing really well at that point.
I think it's Sixers and Knicks.
I think so too, actually, yeah. Believe it or not. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's going to be a big storyline for the entire season, hopefully. If you're a Knicks fan, we're going to look to repeat. So that'll be a lot of fun. The Yankees this weekend took 2 out of 3 against the Braves. They also had Old Timers Day. You and I talked a little bit about it before the show. When I was younger, I used to love Old Timers Day. I don't know why. And all the guys were older than me. Now they're all younger than me, which is kind of weird but back in the day, they played other teams' old timers. You get to see Willie Mays. You get to see Stan Musial. They can't play, right? They go out there and they jog around at best. And you see guys playing out of position. Now we see Yankees against Yankees. And to me, they have a hard time even filling up those spots because Brian Weathers is playing first base and not pitching. I mean, we had some decent storylines. Weathers and his son both there in the dugout. The Bellingers were in the dugout together. But some of the old timers are missing too. Maybe he's not getting invited. Roger Clemens isn't there. Roy White, not there.
Roy White lives close enough. It's hard to Roy White wasn't there.
And it's not like he's not out. I follow him on social media. He's at events all the time. Roy White not
Sparky
there.
Lyle is virtually forgotten. I mean, do you think they still hold it against him, the book, the Steinbrenner family?
Yep. Again, we talked about Greg Nettles. Greg Nettles not there. These are older guys. I get it. But older guys have come for years. I remember Tommy Hendrick coming when he was 90 years old.
Yeah, but you don't want him, at a certain point, you don't want him playing. You don't want him playing. And the way to do it is let some of your current players for fun out onto the field and play. Like I think I was telling it to you before the show. Let Mariano Rivera pitch if he was healthy to Aaron Judge, for example. But let it be choreographed where Judge intentionally strikes out, and makes it look good. And the crowd will love cheering that Mariano got him on a cutter, call strike 3 on Judge. And the people will love it, and Judge wouldn't have an ego. He would love to be struck out by Mariano for fun, because he probably has tremendous admiration for Mariano, and go along with the whole thing. And also you could have a little fun too. Maybe Judge hits a home run off Mariano and then Mariano bows down to Judge, and the crowd would love that as well.
Listen, I thought Mo threw the ball pretty good Saturday. He might have performed better than any of the guys on the field.
I always want to Mo.
He had some movement on the ball.
Yeah. I saw some years ago Roger Clemens pitching to a college team, and his velocity was down, but it was in like the mid-80s or so. And the problem was Roger had some control issues against the college kids, but he did have a bit of a spin on the ball. The only way an old pitcher could ever make his way back in the major leagues is if he had a specialty pitch like a knuckleball. Just that one specialty pitch that was slow. It's still slow, but somehow he could get it to still flutter.
There have been guys through the years that have tried to come back years after. Remember Jim Palmer tried to come back, and Jim Bouton tried to come back, and it never worked. It's never worked out.
They lose velocity, and an older pitcher too. It's a little more challenging to get off the mound if they bunt on them, and just the flexibility moving around. But that's another topic. No one is really talking about that. But the old timers game, I'm not crazy about it anymore. To me, it's not as big as an attraction as it used to be. I was tuning in between that and the NFL Hall of Fame speeches. I was going back and forth.
I was as well.
But I'd rather see an alumni reunion of a certain team, like this season, the 1986 New York Mets, a 40th anniversary. That I'd rather see. I don't want to see them play a game. I'd rather just see them get interviewed, them run out onto the field, sit down along the line, maybe go to their positions for fun, and just toss the ball back and forth to one another and then run back in. Some of these old-timey games, they used to be enjoyable, but at the same time, they were somewhat embarrassing at times, seeing these out-of-shape players.
Well, it was fun sometimes. Seeing Mickey Mantle hit a home run in Old Timers Day is kind of cool, right? At least for a guy my age.
Keith, if you're not that far removed from being retired,
right?
Or if you're a player that's still playing, let's say, in the softball league, you're still somewhat active. That's okay. You get out there and play. I'm good with that. But even a guy like a Derek Jeter, he wasn't there. But Derek Jeter says he hasn't picked up a baseball since he retired. And believe me, it has an effect on you. I learned that like about a year ago. Keith, I'm out jogging. And, right outside of a ball field that has the fence. The ball goes over the fence, okay? And there's a little bullpen in between the ball field, where I have to throw the ball back. That's locked up the gate. Yeah. So I fling the ball that I think really far to get it back to the people on the field. The ball barely makes it over the darn fence. And I'm putting everything I have into it like, what? Because I hadn't thrown a baseball in like 30 years. And the arm just wasn't conditioned to throw a ball. I mean,
you got
the way
keep
it used
throwing.
to be.
Jack, I'm 66. I've got a ball and glove in my car since forever. I've never not had a ball and glove in my car. And I throw the ball probably 10 times a year. My arm hurts a lot after I'm done now, but we throw a lot. And
they had one of these radar gun things at one of these carnivals years ago when they had the Goodwill games. Yeah. And it told you how fast you were throwing the ball. I threw one pitch, 36 miles per hour. That was like,
I don't get much.
I could have probably thrown it a little hard. I could have gotten up to 42 had I, if I put everything I had into it. But it put it in perspective. I said, these major leaguers, they're throwing like two and a half times faster than I am on the pitch.
Throwing it hard with less effort too, by the way.
Yeah.
So we kind of agree that the ceremony is fun, but maybe we don't play the game anymore. Because Yankees, by the way, still do a good job. Like they honor Diane Munson was there and gets introduced. Kay Mercer was there, and I like what they do with some of the players who have passed away and honoring them with their wives and whatnot. I think it's kind of cool. A lot of what the Yankees do. But maybe we
Bobby Mercer in Monument Park.
He is not.
So you see, I don't quite get that. It's debatable whether he should be there or not.
But the thing about he belongs there. What? He belongs.
Okay, I'm not arguing against that. I'm really not. But the point is, if you're going to invite his wife there every year, that means he was an iconic Yankee. If you're going to do that, and for him not to be in Monument Park, I mean, I really don't get all this. I really don't get it.
We talked about Roy White not being there. He and Roy White, when I was a kid, and the Yankees were no good. They were no good after, from 64 to 76. I mean, they had some decent teams, but not great teams like they had. They didn't win any pennants. And they were the face of the franchise, and they kept the few people that were going to the ballpark come to the ballpark. They deserve to be honored for that.
Roy White deserves to be in more than Bobby Mercer.
Probably. He
had a longer reign. He was 15 years. The Yankees, 15 consecutive years, and he was with the Yankees when they won their championships.
You know what? Roy White was from the time Steinbrenner brought the team. Roy White was never appreciated by that organization. They tried to replace him every single year.
Steinbrenner wasn't a fan. because Roy White didn't have the typical numbers
No.
that Steinbrenner liked. He wasn't that power hitter who drove in a lot of runs. Roy White was ahead of his time. If you looked at the metrics of how we judge players today, he looks much better today what he did than before. Even the whole metrics have changed. You know, at the end of Mickey Mantle's career, he was an old, broken down player. It looked like he couldn't perform. And now you look back, the man was amongst the league leaders in walks. So when you look at, you know, like what Billy Beane looked at, getting on base percentage, all of a sudden, hey, you know, Mickey Mantle wasn't that bad at the end of his career. He got on base.
Mantle regretted sticking around, though, because it cost him a 300 lifetime batting average these last couple of years.
Yeah, he did. He did regret that. And it does have an effect on Hall of Famers because Reggie Jackson visited the Met broadcast booth. Reggie Jackson is one of the players, I believe, maybe on the Veterans Committee who maybe has a vote on who can get in, I believe. And he's quizzing Keith Hernandez. And I could tell Reggie Jackson's trying to get information. How many Golden Gloves did you win? And Keith Hernandez says, I won 11. I won 11 in a row, 11 consecutive seasons. And then Reggie Jackson says, what was your batting average? And that was revealing because Reggie Jackson is an old timer. He's into batting average, not on base percentage. That's how we grew up looking at things. I mean, I remember, you know, when I was a kid, I played a game and it was said I played a bad game. You know, like high school youth service, like I get up 4 times and I go 0 for 2. But out of the other 2 times I walk and 0 for 3, excuse me, and I got a guy in from third hitting a ground ball. That's considered a bad game. Well, you were 0 for, I mean, I didn't say, I said 0 for 2, 0 for 3.
Yeah.
But I looked at it 2 productive at-bats, and we don't look at it major leaguers that way. We don't look at on base percentage. I'm spoiled. I'm old school. I'm spoiled looking at the average.
I still think counting numbers still means something, right? I know some of these other metrics are important, but a lot of the analytics today are just like taken way too far, and a lot of people.
It depends the analytics on the situation, and it depends on body of work on certain things. I mean, the analytics are good in that they give you an edge. I mean, but there's so many factors involved. The analytics could be great, but a player hits a certain point in his career where he's a different player for better or worse. So you're going to tie him into the analytics of before. You know, it's questionable.
I agree.
You keep talking about replacing Aaron Boone. If the Yankees ever replaced Aaron Boone, they would replace him with someone who would do the exact same things as Aaron Boone, go with the analytics, because it's an organizational decision.
Well, they're huge on analytics, the Yankees, for sure. There's 100% they would just replace him with a clone, a guy who doesn't have any say in hardly anything. So anyway, listen, one sad note too, and we won't spend a lot of time on it, but as part of Old Timers Day and people that weren't there, Tommy John wasn't there. Great Yankee, great pitcher in general. Won a lot of games after having that Tommy John surgery, which he's best known for. But he sent a letter to the organization and to fans basically saying goodbye. And I followed Tommy very closely. I had him on for an interview a few years back and met his wife, Cheryl, and I followed them on social media. And Tommy's not doing well. I didn't know he's doing badly enough to say goodbye. So we wish Tommy well. And it's kind of sad to see, again, I'm at a time, and I know you've been there, when all these people that I grew up watching are kind of passing away. And it's a very sad time to go through that. And Tommy John was a big part of my
life is like sports. Everyone moves on.
Yeah.
Everyone moves on, and it hits home more when you're older, like myself, seeing that all these guys, and and eventually it's yours truly and everyone else. I mean, that's just what
I like it here. I'm going kicking and streaming, so just so you know.
Tommy John had 288 career wins. he's not in the Hall of Fame. When should he be a Hall of Famer? He wasn't a great pitcher. He was a very good pitcher. He was never Tommy John never would have been my ace on the staff, but he would have been a good number 2, number 3. Excellent. If I had to compare him to anyone as far as how good he was effective, he was somewhere in between Mike Mussina and Andy Pettit, something like that, as far as how good he was. But should he be in the Hall of Fame? 288 wins, a lot of wins. And I remember at the end of his career when he was a Yankee and he was fading, he knew how badly he wanted to get to 300 wins, because if Tommy John got to 300 wins, he would have gotten into the Hall of Fame. But with the surgery named after him, it's called Tommy John surgery. Considering that in the 288 wins, you could make a case for him being a Hall of Famer, because now it's the Hall of the Very Good.
Yeah.
We're kind of transitioned into that, and Tommy John was very good.
I think Tommy hung around a little too long, and some of those last couple of years were not Tommy John optimal, and I think that might have hurt his chances a little bit. He might have been better off retiring with less wins and people remembering a more effective Tommy John.
No, I don't think they remember him negatively in that sense. I think Tommy John's legacy is the surgery. Him coming back, Tommy, being the pioneer.
That legacy is in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that cast is in the Hall of Fame, I believe. I'm almost certain.
Yeah, so Tommy John would be someone I would give a careful look to, as far as being a Hall of Famer.
He was a funny guy, too. I like Tommy. And you know what? There was a couple
years. His name you said was Cheryl or was Sally? As I remember.
Cheryl. Well, his wife today is Cheryl.
Oh, did Sally pass away?
No, I think they split up in the 80s, maybe.
Wow, I didn't know that. You kept hearing how close they were. I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
wow.
This was sometime after his playing career, I believe, or near the end of it. I'm not sure the whole timeline, but Cheryl
because they seemed to be like the perfect couple in Yankee land back in the day.
Well, Cheryl takes really good care of him now, I can tell you from what I see. So,
nice.
He's in because he's not in the best of shape. He battled bladder cancer a couple of years ago. He had some really bad neck issues and stuff. When I interviewed him, he was in like a halo type thing because he'd had some neck issues.
Anyway. You talk about marriages. What happened to that movie that was supposed to come out with the Fritz Peterson, Mike Kekich saga? They were supposed to do a movie Hollywood on that.
A few times it's kicked around, and I think I heard about it recently. Actually, the last year I've heard that it was still kicking around and possibly going to get done, but nobody's had a script that sold. So
I can't imagine a team keeping both on the roster together in this day and age. Because teams get rid of guys for distraction. The only way you keep players like that on the team if they're high impact players. Then again, Peterson was for the Yankees. It's a different time.
Well, Kekich got traded during that
both
season.
Guys on the team. I mean, if something like that ever happened, I would look to move on from both guys. You don't need that culture in your clubhouse.
They did within a year, and Kekich was gone that same year that it was in spring training. They announced this. And the Kekich part of the trade didn't hold. He wanted to reverse the trade, and Peterson's said no. So he got shipped off, I think, to the Indians. And then Peterson was gone the next April. He was traded to the Indians as well. So they didn't keep him very long.
Well, they didn't just swap their wives; they swapped their kids, the
Families,
whole family.
Houses, cars, everything.
I mean, listen. Once everyone's kids tick them off once in a while, but I couldn't imagine trading my kids.
Maury, who was the writer, the baseball writer for the Post and the News? Maury, he wrote a bunch of books about the Yankees. Maury, oh crap.
I
can't think
Maury
of his last
Allen.
name. Maury Allen. He wrote a book about the Yankees, and he wrote about that incident. And he thinks the genesis of it was after a party he had at his house and had a bunch of the players there, and those two guys left and did not leave with the person they came with. So it was very interesting. He wrote about that incident.
One thing I understand, as I've gotten older, let everyone live their life the way they want. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, I don't give a darn. Just
You know
be
what, Jack?
happy,
That was a
do
big
your things. It doesn't affect me.
that was a big story in 1973. Today, it wouldn't even be a blip on the radar. So I don't think so.
Well,
Anyway,
listen, things have changed, like drastically in certain ways. I mean, it's that you couldn't do today. Like Cleon Jones was having, I don't want to see an affair with another woman, something on the side. The front office called him and they condemned him and embarrassed the heck out of him for doing something on the side.
well, he's
I mean,
caught in a car with a woman. I don't remember the whole.
I mean, come on.
These
You
things.
couldn't do that today, condemn a player and embarrass them that way.
Now we probably wouldn't even know about it, for crying out loud. So anyway, what are your thoughts on George Lombard's hit a couple of home runs? Yankees have had kind of there's been some energy, but the team's still not scoring runs
They're
consistently.
not hitting. That's all there is to it. The pitching has been fine, Keith.
They wasted another great outing by Cam Schleter yesterday.
Let's leave the pitching out of it. Let's not talk about the team. Let's talk about the regular position players. Let's not talk. The pitching has been fine. The pitching's been elite. I mean, yesterday was sickening. I mean, they get one run the whole game, the first 9 innings. I mean, Todd Grisham hits a home run. He hasn't been good this year. It's just been bad.
Well,
it's just been bad. Listen, Garcia's a nice addition when you're watching him there. But even Ben Wright hit a bad spell. He went forever without hitting a home until he hit one a couple of days ago.
Well, even the games they won against the Braves, their bats didn't come alive till the 9th inning on Friday night. They rallied to win that game, and then they scored 2 runs on Saturday, both on solo home runs.
But Keith, with that said, I actually like this team, the upside going forward, because you look at the left side of the infield, for example, Lombard and McMahon. That's as good a defensive left side of the infield as you're going to have in baseball. That's elite. I want McMahon in there playing third base. He's elite. But we need McMahon to just pick it up a little bit with the bat. He doesn't have to pick it up a lot. Just pick it up a little bit. Do a little better. Okay? Chaz Chisholm is a wild card. He's been there so. I'm not thrilled with how he's done this year. He's been average defensively at second base. He hasn't stolen the base in a while, but he can create things on the base paths. He has some power. First base, Garcia, he maybe's lacking defensively a little, and that bothers me, but he swings a mean bat.
He does.
And I think Austin Wells, maybe I'm being too optimistic, is going to start hitting going forward. He's showing signs. Don't look at his batting average now because you're going to want to throw up if you do. So don't look at it, please. But going forward, I think Austin Wells does have upside with the bat, can start putting it together. And of course, it's a big if. Do we get Judge back? Bellinger's going to come back. Stanton. In other words, help is on the way. Help is on the way.
We're more sure about Bellinger than we are Judge or Stanton. Both of those guys don't have any timeline yet. So, and Bellinger ought to be back here in a few weeks, probably.
Well, I got to think, Judge obviously is going to be a Yankee for years to come, probably spend his whole career with the Yankees when all is said and done. Stanton has 2 years left on his contract after this one. It's a very tricky situation what the Yankees are going to do with Stanton in the offseason. The last year of his contract, they'll probably buy him out for $10 million, because if they don't, they'll have to pay him an additional $15 million to play. It would be $25 million. And they're probably going to say, look, $15 million, he's not worth the extra $15 million to take a chance, unless Stanton has a phenomenal year next year. If he hits 45 homers and knocks in 112 runs, maybe they'll pay him the extra $15 million for 1 more year. But 2 years to go on the deal, Keith. Teams don't.
I'm not confident he'll
money for 2 years. No. to pay him for 2 years to sit out.
$30
It might
million.
be a little too much, but they might do it.
They might trade him for a bag of balls or something. Maybe somebody will pick
They
up
might
that
think
15
to
million.
themselves, we got Luis Garcia. He will be our DH next year. Ben Rice is our first baseman. Maybe they invite Paul Goldschmidt back as a backup. All they paid Goldschmidt was $4.5 million this year.
Yeah.
Yankees might decide we'll do it again next year if he accepts that.
Well, you can't just run this back next year. You can't just run it back. They have to make some different. They need to improve the bench, and they need to because they need to be better prepared for Judge not playing.
You got Caballero, you got Rosario.
What do you mean this bench is okay?
Okay.
Jack, the bench isn't okay. This team is last in has the fourth least run scored since Judge got hurt. They're last in batting average, they're last in on base percentage, and they have the worst strikeout rate in baseball since Judge got hurt in May.
But the players I'm pointing out are decent players. Caballero did a nice job most of the year. He hasn't been hitting recently.
Would you say they've done a good job of replacing Judge or Bellinger or Stanton? They have not. I'm not those guys.
Players, but the moves were the right moves. It just didn't work out. Dominguez was given a full shot. He was given a full shot again, and it didn't work out. And the only way you know it doesn't work out is to play a guy. You had to give Dominguez the chance when Judge went out. That was the logical thing to do.
Well, once
they're doing now with Spencer Jones. We're seeing what Spencer Jones has going forward. And I'm not overly high on Spencer Jones. I don't know what to say about him. The jury's still out. Because in all fairness, I wasn't completely sold on Ben Rice before this year. I wasn't sure about him.
I'll agree with that.
And so when Ben Rice wasn't producing last year, we could put him down. Oh, it's so bad. The Yankees have to do this, to that. You play guys, and if they fail, then you eventually are moving on from them.
That's fair. But again,
there's no moves to make if you're the Yankees. You got to live with the guys you have.
There were moves to be made, but
what moves could they have made, Keith? What moves?
They could have brought in another outfielder besides the guy they got from the Giants.
Ramos.
Yeah,
they brought in what other outfielder could they have brought in? It's so easy to say. I mean, you remind me once of what my father said to me. I got shut out of subjects in college for my major. Physical ed. The subjects weren't available. The classes filled up. So I couldn't take that. My father said, just take more courses. Just take more classes somewhere. I'm not going to go to the sociology department and take a class, an elective that wasn't going to do me any good at that point. I mean, listen, there's certain players I would have loved for the Yankees to have worked it out. They actually showed a little interest in my crowd. But which catcher?
Adley Rutschman was there to be had.
Rutschman, yeah. Would you have offered Lombard in a Rutschman deal?
No,
they could have gotten him. No, they couldn't have gotten Rutschman.
I disagree.
They inquired about him. They tried. They weren't willing to do what the Red Sox did. The Red Sox gave up 4 prospects. 3 of them are leading their organization for Rutschman. They made the bold moves.
The Yankees have plenty of prospects not named George Lombard. They could have put Kilby in the trade because they're not going to need Kilby. They got pitchers, a lot of pitchers they could have put in there who, again, they're just prospects.
But the Red Sox package was so attractive. To outdo that package, would have been a mistake. And this is Rutschman. He's a good catcher. We're not talking about Johnny Bench here. Come on.
Well, I'm not trading for. I didn't say I was trading for Johnny Bench. You wouldn't get Johnny Bench for any of the prospects that got traded for Rutschman. So, plus
and
he's
I agree
80 years old.
Listen, the catcher position says, if you want to get technical about it, okay, the Yankees could move Ben Rice to catcher. And they could play Garcia at first base. Now you have both bats in the lineup, even though I think Rice's hitting would be sacrificed to an extent if he was forced to play catch, if he had that responsibility.
And Wells is better defensively too. So.
Okay, but there you go. Wells isn't bad defensively. And that's a real important factor.
Well, you got to be really good defensively to carry a 170 batting average.
He was atrocious, but he is coming around. And that's what I said before. You got to look
up to 170.
No. You listen, but he's been hitting a little lately. But listen, he's had a terrible year. I don't want to make excuses for him. But going forward, that's what you got to take a look at. I've always loved Brian Buxton on the Twins, but you're going to give up really good prospects for him?
He's going to be hurt all the time, that guy. So, no, I wouldn't want Brian Buxton.
We needed bullpen help.
They did talk to the Angels about Mike Trout, by the way, and so did the Phillies. But Mike Trout said he didn't want to get traded.
Wow. Mike Trout's an awesome individual. He obviously loves it being with the Angels. He doesn't want to go anywhere. I get the feeling that they didn't pressure Mike Trout to be traded.
I don't think so. I think they just
came to him as a courtesy, Artie Moreno. But I'll tell you this too, and I think Artie Moreno understands this. Anyone trading for Mike Trout is going to insist the Angels pick up part of his salary. And Artie Moreno's probably not going to want to do it. Mike Trout's getting somewhere about $35 million a year the next few years. They'll ask the Angels to pick up about $15 million of it. Because if I'm the Yankees, any other team, I'm not paying him $35 million a year. He's not that type of player anymore. Would I split the amount of money down the middle with the Angels? That I would consider doing. Look, even the Stanton contract, the Marlins are still paying part of Stanton's contract.
Yeah, they are correct. That's correct. Listen, Mike Trout's not getting traded now, I don't think. If he was going to get traded, he would have said yes now, I think. I don't think
the trade deadline passed. The only two teams Mike Trout, I think, would have considered going to the Phillies. Growing up a Philly fan. And the Yankees.
Yeah,
I mean, those would, or if the Angels tried to pressure him to be traded, then chances are he would give in, if we're the Yankees or the Phillies. But it says a lot for Mike Trout's character. I mean, obviously he wants to win, and he's sticking with a team that's a losing team. There's no end in sight.
Part of me likes the fact that he wants to be that legacy player, to use your terminology, right? And part of me thinks, gosh, I wish he'd just go somewhere where he gets a chance to win.
Ernie Banks of modern baseball.
Yeah.
Look at Ernie Banks' legacy. Had Ernie Banks left the Cubs the last 2 years of his career and won a championship, would it have meant much? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Willie Mays going to the Mets was different. Was much different. He was a Giant his whole career to the last year and a half, but coming to the Mets wasn't like he even switched teams in a sense. He was back in New York.
Yeah.
Back where he started, back where he never wanted to leave. So it was like you move from one home to another home, and then you move back into your childhood home again. That's what it basically was.
Do you know, and I just read this, I'm reading a book about the 74 Yankee season, and Steinbrenner's original plan when he bought the Yankees was to make Willie Mays the manager. I didn't know that. And that was
I didn't know that either. He
was going to fire Ralph Houck and hire Willie Mays. And Willie Mays was finishing up his career with the Mets, and he was going to hire him to be the manager. And then I think he got suspended or whatever. I don't remember what derailed it.
Steinbrenner's roots were in Cleveland, and he had Al Rosen, great Cleveland Indian player, third baseman, as his GM.
Not till later on, Gabe Paul was the first guy.
Rosen couldn't take him and quit.
Gabe Paul was the first guy who came from Cleveland to the Yankees before Rosen. Gabe Paul was a GM in 74. Yeah, because
you're right. You're right on that. You're correct on that.
There was a lot of chatter
because Rosen came after, and Rosen couldn't take him.
Well,
why did Gabe Paul leave?
After 70.
Why? No, why? Why did he leave?
Oh, George.
He couldn't take George.
He'd had enough of George, yeah.
You know, Gene Michael was able to take George to an extent. You know, George got on his nerves, but somehow with George, you had to push back too. George could respect it to a degree if you pushed back on him. It didn't have to be in public. You could have told George in private, you have no idea what you're talking about, and you could have gotten back in his face. He kind of respected that to an extent, because Brian Cashman would come back at George a little bit, you know, disagree. And because George, you know, he was a combination of his mother and father. His father was this tough guy. His mother, you know, was a bit of a softy, heart of gold. Because George would flip-flop. Like when he'd fire Buck Showalter, then he thought maybe I should hire him back, you know. And he kept doing it with Billy Martin. Fire him, rehire him.
Oh, the thing with Billy just turned into a joke. And Billy would have got hired again if he didn't die in a car accident. Yeah. He would have been hired again. So anyway, I don't know how we got on that. A little bit of NFL news. The Hall of Fame inductions were this week. We talked about some of this yesterday on the Roundtable show. Anything that really stands out to you? I thought it's sad, the whole Roger Craig thing. Obviously, we talked about it, having the dementia now that he believes is, and likely is, tied to all the concussions he had when he was a player. But look, the NFL's hands are tied. There's not much you can do to change the game and the way it's played. But you got to stop adding games onto these guys. I think is the one thing the NFL can do. You'll stop.
Yeah, what they actually could do, and it's not, my ideas are never popular on our shows. They're certainly not popular with you, which is fine. Which is fine. It's all a matter of opinion. You're not exactly the kind of guy who likes any change at all.
I'm not a good change guy.
Rule, a new thing, you're always complaining, but that's okay.
That's true.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Maybe the way to go at it is every NFL player, you cap how many games they can play a year, not counting playoff games. Everyone plays playoffs, of course. But if you're going to an 18-game schedule, maybe the idea is it would help a little bit. You cap every player's games at 14. He's got to sit out 4 games. And he picks whatever 14 he wants, you want to play him in. And you expand the rosters a little, meaning you're adding some more opportunity to guys who are getting cut. And I think the players would get used to that. They would get to heal up. And for certain players, it would be irrelevant because they'd be out anyway a couple of weeks. And those are the games they wouldn't be playing.
So my question would be, why do we need to do that and add the game? Why not just don't add more games?
Because it's entertainment, more games.
Money. It's money. Say the real thing.
Money. It's always money. It's always about the money and adding with the product. Keith, you're going to watch
adding more games and diminishing, but you're going to add more games, play the stars less. So you're going to diminish the product. Why have more games if you're diminishing the product?
No. You're not going to listen. You're not going to sit out all your top guys for one game if you're capping the games and make it a throwaway game. You're meticulous in how you do it and who you play, who you don't play. You'll get away with it. Like if you're the Raiders, for example, Kirk Cousins is your starter now. 4 games Fernando Mendoza is going to be playing, and he's going to be starting. That's just the way it goes.
Do I know the game that he's going to sit that I paid $500 to go watch?
You don't know yet, but that's always a risk when you get tickets to a game.
Are you okay with load management?
Who's going to be out?
Are you okay with load management in the NBA and players coming into a city one time and people paying through the nose and then those guys don't play?
I was ticked off once when Kobe Bryant got suspended for one game during his career, and that game was at Madison Square Garden. And Kobe said he was disappointed. He really looked forward to playing at the Garden. But think about the fans that bought tickets to see Kobe. And I'm thinking, suspend the guy when he's for a home game in Los Angeles, because he got 40 other games during the regular season to see him.
But you're going to be okay with the biggest stars in the NFL potentially coming to, and Jet fans wouldn't be able to see the biggest stars in the NFL who don't play for them, obviously. But they may not see them because of load management.
I don't think in football it's as big of an issue getting tickets to see players as much as it is to see teams. In the NBA, it is to see players. Look, if I get tickets to see the Nets play the San Antonio Spurs, I'm really getting tickets to see the Nets play Wemby. I want to see Wemby. If Wemby doesn't play, it takes away, it takes the heart out of the game, really.
Well,
But you want
competitive? How about competition?
Now the Sixers have LeBron. Okay, if LeBron wasn't playing, it's still entertaining. You still have star players, but certain star players are irreplaceable. If the Jets are playing the Chiefs, my interest in seeing the game is seeing a game. The Jets play the Chiefs. Of course, you want to see Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, but it's not the same as like an NBA game.
Well, I will say this. I don't like change. You're right. But if the NFL does continue to add games and doesn't do anything, even if it's what you're talking about, then they're being very disingenuous about caring about playing.
Okay, getting off the NFL, not policy. Teddy Bridgewater retired once again. Okay. How the greats treated him. Yeah, no, that's good stuff, Rick. But I guess we're talking about the Hall of Fame.
We're talking about the Hall of Fame.
He's one of the gentlemen. Larry Fitzgerald's been one of the great gentlemen, the NFL.
I said this yesterday, just before we get off this Hall of Fame thing. I think this is one of the classiest classes to be inducted into the Hall of Fame that I can remember. And I'm sure there's others, but nothing's coming right to my memory. All 5 of these guys are classy individuals by my standards anyway. At least what I know.
I'm seeing on social media, they're talking a lot about Adam Vinatieri's speech and Roger Craig mentioning the dementia. Let's forget Vinatieri's speech a moment. Let's forget about it completely. But it's coming on social media. This is such a great debatable question. Patriot or Colt? It's such a great debate. What
I'm biased, but
Patriot. What he should be considered as. I mean, how many? He won 1 Super Bowl with the Colts. How many did he win with New England?
4. 3. Sorry, 3. And he played another one.
Like you think of legacies. You were talking about old timers stay in baseball. You think of Darryl Strawberry. He had his number retired by the Mets. He played for 8 seasons. And I'm thinking, you're retiring a guy's number who left you.
But remember.
But he was a Yankee, but he had 3 World Series championships with the Yankees.
Go back to Vinatieri. He played 10 years with the Patriots, 14 with the Colts. He won a championship in Baltimore or in Indianapolis, yes. But he didn't just win 3 Super Bowls with the Patriots. He kicked the game-winning field goal in all 3 of them, and he kicked 2 huge field goals to get them to their first Super Bowl.
Okay.
He'll always be a Patriot. Always.
What are you going to do? And it's inevitable. If he has a couple of more good seasons, if the Dodgers win the World Series this year, what are you going to do with Freddie Freeman if you have to make a decision? Is he going to go in the Hall of Fame as a Brave, a Dodger?
That's a good question. Today, I still say Braves, but
if they win the World Series this year,
it's going to be very hard not to put him in as a Dodger. Very hard.
I mean, Reggie Jackson played less time with the Yankees than he did with the A's, but he wanted to go in as a Yankee.
That's fair.
Gary Carter, I thought, could have gone in as a Met. He went in as an Expo. But if Keith Hernandez gets in, he's going to go in as a Met. He won't go in as a Cardinal, even though he spent more time as a Met.
Are you okay with Catfish, who went in with nobody on his cap? Because he didn't want to choose between the A's and the Yankees.
I'm not sure. Mark Messier, did he go in as the Hockey Hall of Fame? We have a little time. Maybe look it up next time. As a Ranger, Edmonton Oiler.
I don't really know.
His body of work was with the Oilers much more, but he created the biggest buzz with the Rangers.
Yeah, I don't really know. Rick says Brave for Freddie, even if he wins again, apparently.
Yeah, okay, Keith. Good show, Keith.
Yeah, anything, check out Jack tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern with...
we have Bobby Cassidy Jr.'s, I guess, on Glove Fist tonight. He's going to be talking about his new book on his dad, Bobby Cassidy Sr., Requiem for a Middleweight. Really great book, great boxing guy. We're going to have a lot of fun, Frank Laterzo, myself, with him, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope you can tune in.
Always good stuff with Jack and Frank. Check them out. Guys, have a great day. We'll see you again. Jack and I will on Friday, and I'll see you Wednesday night with the College Football Huddle back. Bye-bye.